Good afternoon, gorgeous people, and welcome to this week's live Empowered Consent Conversations. I'm Christina McCabe, your relationship and sex coach. I do focus on the erotic blueprints as my tool. I love consent, which is why we're here exploring it, and I love helping clients speak their authentic desires, and these conversations really help up-level all of those skills. It is my absolute joy to bring you these empowered consent conversations each week. Hopefully, generally, sometimes we skip one, but keep watching out. Where I'm gathering sex, intimacy, and relationship experts to explore topics in a way that helps you create consent in your life that really gets you heard and understood and fulfilled. I really like us to lean into an exploration of consent in a way that focuses it on being exciting, healing. I like it to be this gorgeous doorway of deeper potential and possibility for us, both in intimate relationships, outside of intimate relationships, and with ourselves. So, welcome. Today, we are gathered to talk about empowered consent and personal responsibility. Now, just a note here. I do want to just clarify when we're talking about personal responsibility and empowered consent, we are not talking about victim blaming. In fact, victim blaming is never something that I or we on these platforms condone or support and am actually vehemently against. So if it's feeling like that for you at all, or you're getting triggered in some way, reach out. Let's explore that. This week, I'm joined by my gorgeous guest, expert Stéphanie Wilbur, and I will be bringing her on to introduce herself in just a minute. But I want to invite you to take a look at the description, where you will find both Stéphanie and my contact information, as well as the YouTube link. If y'all are joining us on Facebook, feel free to subscribe to YouTube so you can get notified whenever we go live. If you're on YouTube and haven't subscribed, time to do that. We also love you to be involved, so feel free to ask questions or make comments via the chat, and I will monitor them and try to get you heard if I'm able. At the very end of our conversation as well, we're going to do a little resource roundtable where Stéphanie and I will let you know how you can work with us further if that's something that you desire. All right, let's get into it. Stéphanie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. First time in these conversations, another Erotic Blueprint Coach. Yes, it's community coming together. Welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to let people know a little bit more about who you are?
Well, I'm from Quebec, so I speak French and English. So I also coach in French, and I am an erotic blueprint coach. And I like to say that I'm a joyful intimacy coach because the idea of creating joyful intimacy with ourselves in our intimate relationships, right? Bringing more joy,
joyful intimacy with ourselves.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a little backsplash on the sound. Go ahead.
Yes. So creating more pleasure and passion and playfulness, bringing that into all our relationships and especially our intimate relationships.
Yum, yum, yum. Fantastic. Thank you and welcome. Yeah. So I always start these with asking for our viewers and for ourselves, because I learn more every single week. What is empowered consent to you? What does that mean?
Well, I would say that for me, I was really, really impacted by Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about creating an agreement, right, between two or more people. And before that, my definition of consent in my mind was like, well, it's like allowing someone, it's like saying yes or no. You know, it's giving permission or refusing something. And that was
Mm-hmm.
it. It was not
Yeah.
really a conversation. It wasn't an exchange. It wasn't something that I felt could be rich. Consent was about like, it was very like, you give consent in sex and yes or no, and that's it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
exchange. Now
Yeah.
it's become much richer with much richer dynamics.
I look forward to getting into those dynamics a little bit more. I, as well, am a huge fan of Betty Martin. She was on a past conversation with us, exploring the erotic blueprints of all things. And in 2 weeks, everybody, Betty's going to join us once again, talking about empowered consent and trauma with a couple of other blueprint coaches. So be sure, or not only blueprint, a couple of other relationship and sex experts. So be sure and watch out for that. Really a wealth of information. Yeah, a wealth of information. So then we talked about empowered consent. You all that have joined me before know that I love the Consent Academy. I think they are a wealth of information, and they are in the description, a link to their website. Amazing organization that gives a lot of free information and workshops on consent, nonprofit. So go check them out. But they say that consent is that you have to have the capacity, information, agency, and ability to give honest and authentic answer without coercion or undue influence. And I just love all that. It feels really good and complete. I like to approach empowered consent as a dual conversation. It's two people. So in that dynamic. So I also like to say that one of those people needs to also, whoever's asking for consent for an experience, needs to be able to have that emotional regulation, emotional maturity to set aside their personal agenda in order to celebrate the answer from the other person, no matter if that meets their desires or not. So I like it to be kind of on both sides of the spectrum of the conversation in consent. And we'll look at that with personal responsibility too, because I think that goes on both sides as well. Yeah. So on that note, what is personal responsibility?
Well, I really like the idea of response ability. So it's someone's ability to respond in a conscious way to life, to what's going on. It's our creative capacity to make choices, right? To be the sovereign beings that we are and create our life. So that's, for me, that's the core of personal responsibility, is to be able to respond, but without or being conscious when you're responding in trauma. When things are triggering you and you're going into fight or flight or fawn or freeze, and that's you're often out of personal responsibility when you're in those. So for me, that's what it means, is to be able to consciously respond to
that ability to respond, right?
Pardon me?
That ability to respond.
Yes.
Responsibility, personal responsibility to me in my exploration this last week, because every time I set a topic, I spend the week before just playing with it, right? In my head and in my body, just feeling into what that topic means. And for me, it is that ability to respond. And if I am outside of personal agency, you mentioned agency, sovereignty, that inner mastery that we desire to have, a lot of us, in order to have ownership of our voices, right? And our choices. If for some reason we're outside of that because of past trauma, external or internal influences, then do we have support systems set into place? Do we have something in place in our lives for those moments that we won't have a full ability to stand for ourselves? If I take it that step further, I think when it comes to consent, personal responsibility is also a deeper awareness of the areas where it may be difficult to respond.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. and how often is it difficult to respond because we don't have that experience? We've never, well, for me, it's recent, it's a
Mm.
gradual process of coming into that personal responsibility. Yes. And it takes practice.
It does, right? And that's not just sexually, people, everyone that may be watching this ability to respond is not just sexually. How often does someone ask you for a hug, or someone ask you to run an errand for them, or do something, or standing too close at the grocery store, right? Or whatever it is that it makes it difficult for you to speak to others in those moments, that's an area of exploration.
Yeah.
Because something's in the way of your ability to respond.
Yes.
In your needs in those moments.
Yes. Yes. To respond, to get your needs met, and
Yes.
also to express your desires, to take responsibility for them.
Yes. And on the other end, then, personal responsibility is also that availability of being able to show up when others talk to us and maybe express, hey, at the grocery store, you're standing a little close. Would you mind stepping back and not getting defensive? Right? Oh, thanks for letting me know. You need a little more space. Right? Or I've asked someone to run an errand for me. No, I really can't do that today. Not getting defensive. Yeah, but I did a lot of other stuff for you. Why can't you show up for me? Right? I mean, it's on both sides of the spectrum. We need to not only be able to respond for ourselves, but able to respond to allow others to speak their truth as well safely. How's that feeling?
For me, it feels really good because the more we ourselves are in personal responsibility, the more we're able to welcome it and honor other people express it, because we're like, oh, this person is expressing a need. It has nothing. Well, not that it doesn't have anything to do with me, but I'm responsible. I could respond the way I choose to that person's need, but recognizing that that person is expressing a need and a desire or a desire.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that doesn't mean, I want to clarify for those of you watching, that doesn't mean if you have that inner agency or that ability to respond and hold space for others and set aside, your agenda or your reactivity, that doesn't mean you don't have those reactions or you don't have those feelings inside, right? I mean, someone may deny me something and I might create some kind of story in my own head because of my personal lens and feel defensive or excluded or attacked, any of the things, whether that person meant it or not. I can still feel that, but then have the ability to respond to my own emotions. Wow, Christina, okay. I can see that's happening. Let's put that aside so I can show up in the moment, right? And honor what someone's telling me. And I'm going to go play with exploring what that was all about in my own time, taking my responsibility for my reactivity.
Yeah, I love that. I'd say that one of the turning points for me moving into personal responsibility, because I just want to also, I don't want to go there too long. I think that, if we want to talk about consent and stuff, the juice, but that triangle, that being either a victim or a persecutor or a savior, right? That often we're not in responsibility, we're acting in one of those positions, right? On this triangle of you're not in personal responsibility, you're trying to save someone else, or you're poor me, but we do that, right? We do that,
right? And therefore assigning someone else to one of the other roles.
Yes, exactly.
In our consciousness.
Exactly.
Right.
It's always, they're always linked. Like if there's a persecutor, there's a victim. If there's a savior, there's a victim. And you're always in this dynamic, one of three. And for me, I remember I did nonviolent communication workshops, right? With
Good stuff.
Marcia
Yeah.
Rosenberg. This is a while back. And it was like realizing, oh my God, I have needs. And when other people are talking, they're talking about their needs. It was like so fundamental. But I remember having a conversation for the first time with my mom. And instead of hearing like criticism, or I was like, oh, I have chills. She's just expressing her own insecurities, or, her own need to, she would like me to be safe, or whatever. And it stopped being about me. And that was like, oh, so she's responsible for her emotions, and then I'm responsible for mine. And that was just a big turning point. I just remember that.
Yeah. That gorgeous big aha moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gave you some freedom. Hi, everyone. I see you watching. Love the love from Facebook. Thanks for the thumbs up. Really nice to have you here with us. We're exploring empowered consent and personal responsibility. Thanks for joining. So what do you want our viewers to know about personal responsibility as it applies to creating empowered consent?
Oh my gosh. You're phrasing it in such a beautiful way. All right. When I am responsible to get my own needs met, expressing what I need, and not blaming myself or blaming others, or projecting it out, then it's possible to really create consent, because it's possible to have this conversation, and this is what I desire, this is what I need, and have an exchange, and have this respect that the other person is also in their own, they have their own desires and their own needs, and we can find common ground, ideally, right? If you want
That's what we're looking for, right? That connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But coming from a place of personal responsibility, it creates so much more freedom and fluidity. I had this amazing conversation last night with someone, and it's so liberating. Where at one point, what did he say? Anyway, he was massaging my leg. All right, he was massaging my leg. I was like, okay, yeah, I want to have a foot massage and a massage. So he was massaging my leg, and at one point he said, "Oh, this seat, my butt is getting really, it's starting to hurt. I'm not comfortable on this seat." And I said, "Oh, fine, then we could find a solution. Maybe we could switch seats. Mine is more comfortable." And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's good." And then we settled in. He's like, "I really appreciate the fact that I've said this kind of things to other people, and they've gotten really defensive. Like, what? You don't want to continue massaging feet?" And I was like, "No, he's just expressing for more comfort, and I want to continue getting my foot massaged.
Right? Let me help you be comfortable, please."
Exactly. Both want to be enjoying this. So yeah. And I was like, "Oh yeah, for me, it's just really normal for you to say you have this need for more comfort."
Yeah. I love that you had that, and that he had the opportunity to feel that, what that feels like. I often think that at times those of us that are doing coaching or healing work of some sort, that we step into the arena that may have been difficult for us. Speaking my voice has not always been easy for me. And so I'm in this arena because it's so passion-filled for me, purpose-driven for me to continue to use my voice more effectively and to help others do so. And so this navigation of where am I personally responsible in each moment to speak my truth, right? And again, everyone, I want to keep putting in here, we're not victim blaming. We're not saying if you have been, your consent has been violated, that you're responsible. There's none of that here, right? This is about us finding areas in our lives within ourselves where we have that deeper understanding and knowing that we have the opportunity to speak our truth. And it's our job to do so. How often, and this is what I want everyone to know too about empowered consent and personal responsibilities. How often are we giving ambiguous communication, unclear communication, lack of communication, and then expecting others to just think that they should know what we needed or wanted or desired or didn't need or didn't want or didn't desire, and then are upset with them because they either didn't provide what we thought they should provide or gave what we didn't really want, but we never spoke it. So for me, personal responsibility is really important in empowered consent to help us actually have those conversations where we can get our desires met, where we can have that deeper intimacy, because we're each clear about where we stand and then can agree to or not agree to aspects of our relationship. That was a whole tangent. I just played.
Oh, but so on point. It's so on point. This is why this is so exciting. Like when I gave my workshop on the consent, I thought, oh, will people think this is boring? But it blew their minds because we are not used to interacting this way. At least in my experience, how many years of, yes, in relationships in general, but in sexuality where I didn't speak up. I didn't ask for what I wanted. I didn't know how. I didn't know how to get my needs met. I didn't know how to express my desires. This is why we're so passionate about this, right? Because we know how wonderful it is when you finally step into this and you're like, what? It feels so
it's
good.
so healing. Yes.
Finally.
Yes. So it's a journey. I want people to know that too. It is a journey. Self-awareness, inner agency, it's a journey. So how do you recommend to people, Stephanie, that have not been speaking, that don't feel they have the ability to respond with their truth, not because they're unduly influenced, right, but by others, but because inside them, something's holding them back, whatever those fears are, whatever's stopping them? How do you recommend people start beginning to step into more free expression?
I'd start by acknowledging one. Your needs matter. Your needs matter. I don't know about you, but for so long, as a woman, this is something that's like culturally ingrained, right? This good girl conditioning. My needs come second. Especially about that, in all these dynamics, my needs come second. And
I just want to interject really quickly, if I can, just for all of you men or male identified folks out there. I know there are a lot of dynamics within this patriarchy that are not serving you getting your needs met either. And then a lot of people that are in those male dominant roles are feeling like they have to take care of everyone else but themselves. So this does go both sides. While I also honor a lot of women don't feel, or female identified people don't feel, that they have the right to their needs getting met as well. So just wanted to put that out there.
I so much for that aparté. I think that is, I mean, we're all taught that your needs don't matter in a certain way, right? You should be serving other people often.
Yeah.
Often we are taught this.
Yeah.
I'm talking my own experience and from
Thank you.
talking to a lot of others about their experiences.
Mm.
But I've also, you know, I have a friend who is has done that. He's to be loved. He's always put his needs second, be a good provider. I mean, he was, you know, on our way back today. So your needs matter. Whoever you are, whatever your gender, your needs matter. So already just that, hey, my needs matter. That's huge.
Yeah. I love that as that starting place. And I just want to acknowledge, affirm, and appreciate. There's my 3 A's. Acknowledge, affirm, and appreciate that you pause. Y'all watch and know I'm a huge fan of a pause. So I like when that you can pause and feel into what wants to come forward. And that's one of the tools that I would bring forward for others as well. That, I think I'm getting a comment. I want to check that out. There we go. That is a really good tool to when it's difficult to express. You're feeling that energy building or the tightness in the body, right? Or that fight or flight or fawning feeling is coming forward, whatever it is, to take a breath and pause. Drop into the body and into what you want to say. Connect to your voice. Yeah. Love that you're doing that.
That's one of my tools too. It's our body doesn't lie, right? And what's going on? What is my body telling me? I'd say, like, is this a yes or no?
Yeah.
I did an exercise and it for one guy in particular, he felt it profoundly. Like he was like, for the first time, I'm feeling what this, you know, this hell yes, like this is a real full body yes feels like. And he was like, oh, and this, I feel the no in my body, what it is, this no. And often a no feels more constrictive, like there's something, that's way like heavier. And if you're feeling that, check it out, right? Because it probably not feeling good. There's something that's not aligned with what you want to give, you're ready to give or receive.
I love that. That somatic knowing is so important. What is your body telling you? And we did a consent conversation, a year and plus ago, exploring what a hell yes and a hell no and a hell no and a hell yes, what the different ones feel like, because some no's feel so good. When you're used to saying yes,
that's true.
You said a no, and it feels so good in your body to say that, or vice versa, right? If you're not saying yes to things you really want to do, like I really have always wanted to go table dance, y'all. Not me personally, because I have. But anyways, you know, something that you wanted to do, step forward, step on the dance floor, go dating, whatever it is you want to step into that you're not saying yes to. When you say that yes, it can feel so good, right? So playing with both of them stepping into your body. What does that no that you didn't want to say feel like? What does the no you did want to say feel like? And vice versa. What is the yes that felt good to say? What does that feel like? And on the yes it didn't feel good to say, I really recommend you all find a yes that's not too trauma triggering. Find a yes where you said yes to driving the kids to school and you didn't want to, or find a yes where you said yes to chicken instead of beef for dinner, right? So find a safe yes to explore how when you said it, it didn't feel good. And Stephanie, you're freezing a bunch on us. Darn it. The Wi-Fi isn't so good there, I think.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's in and out. Yeah.
Is that better? Because I had, oh, even
Yeah.
now?
It's in and out. So we'll play with it as much as we can. But if it continues, we might pop off because it's distracting for people, I think. But let's play because you're here now.
All right. Well, that's too bad because I don't have that either on or my end. I don't see anything going on.
Oh, you don't?
Everything seems fluid.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, well, let's keep playing and we'll see
No, I see
how it's. Yeah, online it's looking like that. So anyways, let's keep playing for right now. So we talked about earlier, so we mentioned learning that you're worth it, right? And we mentioned pausing. But you and I had talked a lot earlier about playfulness. How can we bring that tool forward? How can we bring the flavor of playfulness into this exploration of getting our ability to respond for ourselves? Wired in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what I've actually discovered through the erotic blueprints, right? We have different exploratory games that we play to discover more things about our desires, our likes, our dislikes, what our body likes. And for me, it was like, oh, we can explore without any pressure to perform.
Ah, yes.
Exploring. This is play. There is no goal to get to. This is let's find out more. What is pleasurable?
Yeah.
And for me, that's where playfulness comes in. When you create a safe container, and I would recommend that, you know, when people start with these games that we can, I guess, get more into eventually, you start with things that are non-sexual, right?
Just I recommend that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when it gets sexual, there's more intensity, more emotion, more, but when you're doing things just like, is this pleasurable in a non-sexual touch, for example?
Yeah.
It brings this playfulness that we have lost as adults often.
Yeah, I like that. And I want to recommend really the exploration of where is it difficult? Where is it easy? For some people, especially in relationship, maybe the intimate sexual relationship is where they communicate. That's where they connect the most. And outside of that, running the household, doing the everyday things, they have all kinds of stuff that's built up that they're not talking about or not expressing and creating boundaries and consent around. So really play with where is your more difficult place and play in the fun areas first. Right? Play where it's easy and just slightly start to push your edges.
Yeah.
Areas where if it's always been difficult to say no in this area, just little edges and really celebrate each other. Make it like hilarious how much you're celebrating each other if you need to. You know what I mean? Really dramatize and get excited about the celebration of when someone says something that there has been difficult for them to say, you know?
You know, I really love that. And I want to circle back to something that you shared because I had shared a part of it, but what you're saying there is that if, for example, someone has made a request of you and you've said yes in the past when you're not really feeling it, and then you finally say no, then that no can feel so good. Like I'm giving myself permission to say no. I am choosing myself and my needs even if it's for a
Yes.
small thing.
Yes.
Like, no, I want to watch football. I want to go take a bath or whatever it is. I'm just
Yeah.
giving an answer off the top of my head. And the other person is like, great, go take a bath. And it's like, yes,
Yay,
I said
no.
no.
You said no to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, no, yeah.
Right? Because if
Mm.
you say no, and then what, you get the negative response from the other person, that's going to make it more difficult for you to actually speak your needs the next time, right? Because now you have to navigate holding space for both their energetic throw up and how it feels in your body to receive that. So, and I love laughter.
Mm.
I mean, we are really, what's the right word? We are responsive beings, biologically even, right? We respond to things happening in our environment. We respond to smiley, crinkly eyes. We respond to a smile, even if it's a false smile for ourselves. If I'm feeling stressed, but I make myself smile, my nervous system will start to calm down, right? So we're really, really responsive beings. So that laughter is really going to help to rewire some old patterns around that this is not okay to use my voice. That celebration is really going to help to rewire those old mind or thought patterns or nervous system patterns of fear, right? Disconnect, protect.
That is powerful. That is powerful, Christina. Mm.
So lean in, people.
Yeah.
Play, laugh, smile, celebrate. And I promise, well, I can't really promise, but my experience, and I'm almost going to promise, I promise that if you ask for something and that person says no to you, and you celebrate their no, even though you're not going to receive the thing that you initially asked for, you are going to receive so much more in that relationship with that person because of the kind of connection that is created with allowing authentic expression, that it opens doors in other ways. And this is intimate relationships, right? Or personal relationships. You might not want to open doors with a random stranger you're saying no to, right? But when you're talking to, personal relationships, yeah, it really does open doors to deeper intimacy when you can celebrate someone saying no to you, even if you're not getting what you asked for initially. Yeah.
That is giving the other person a gift. Yeah. And find in my own experience, often easier to receive no's and celebrate them with friends because we project less. We sometimes have less expectations, right? It's like, oh, you need rest. You have to do this, and you can't say yes to my request. That's fine. Wonderful. Go take care of yourself. I know you're really busy, or what, go and read that book, or go out in the sunshine and do whatever you need to take care of yourself. And sometimes it's more challenging with a partner. Yeah. And so what an accomplishment, a gift of love to be able to receive that from the other person and celebrate their response, right?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? It seems like the closer the relationship, and I find this in my work with talking to clients or talking to people about using their voices, because this is what I'm passionate about, right? This is why I developed my course around getting people heard, because I'm so passionate about us speaking in areas where we aren't. And so many people are not speaking to each other. And I find that the more intimate the relationship, the more likelihood that there's triggers between you and you're not speaking to each other about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Often it's a lot easier to speak your truth to strangers where you have no attachment or expectation, or, you don't have this grand tapestry of a story emotionally that you've, created together. Yeah, it's interesting like that. But that opens so many doorways when you can rewire and flip the script on that communication. So on that note, how would you recommend that people that are realizing now, oh my gosh, okay, there are so many places where I'm actually not speaking and it would be good for me to speak. How would you recommend that they begin to flip that script in those relationships?
I'll come back to what I said, because this is absolutely fundamental. Again, saying, I realize that I have this need. So starting by expressing their needs and giving themselves permission to even have them. Sometimes it's a big shift, I had participants realize that they had never been able, they hadn't even realized, that's the thing, that they had never, for example, received touch in a certain way, or that there was this desire and need in them that they hadn't even pinpointed. So to drop in and say, okay, there's something that I really want, and just saying, I'm allowed to express it. I'm allowed to ask for this. To me, it's this huge step, because often when we're not expressing, in my experience, because I've had this in my, with my boyfriends, that I didn't even express the need, because it took me a while to even realize that I had this need, that I was allowed to say it.
Yeah.
So to examine this and say, I'm allowed to have this need, it's already a huge step to voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for some people that can be a long journey, just to find the self-worth that maybe you never thought you had. I am worthy of getting my needs met. I am worthy of speaking my truth. I am worthy of expressing myself in the full, gorgeous tapestry of all of who I am, But there can be so much in the way of that for so many, either our past history and experiences, our family teachings, or cultural narrative, our communities and the places, the boxes that others want to hold us within. So just saying, people, it is a journey at times to begin to even find that self-worth. I really recommend in these situations where maybe you have started to gain some agency and realize, the way my communication or my consent with my partner has been working is not working for me anymore. Because remember, consent given can always be changed. We can always change our minds as well, by the way. But if you realize that you want to start speaking where you haven't, I think ownership is a really good way to do that. I feel that I haven't been talking. I want to let you know the places that it would serve me and our relationship if we were able to communicate better in these areas, right? So coming from me, how I'm feeling, and how it may serve us collectively, and really communicating from that heart-centered place, right? That embodied, true, authentic place.
Yes. And to get back to the consent and personal responsibility, it's like I am expressing it. I'm not saying you, I'm not using you. It's coming back to, this is my desire, my need, and I'm taking responsibility for it, and I'm talking about it in the first person. Like, I am feeling like this in my body. I need to feel safe, and I need this to feel safe. I need this to feel accepted. I need this to feel seen. And so saying it in the first person, right, is already taking responsibility. Like, I'm expressing this because this is what I need.
Yes. And then allowing the other person to also own their responsibility for themselves. Instead of coming forward and saying, letting someone know something that's vulnerable or other than how we've always been operating, and then trying to caretake their emotional response to our expression. We really need to be able to step back and allow them to have their response as well. Allow them to be personally responsible. Because it goes back to that triangle, right? We don't want to then become, I'm going to be personally responsible for me, but then I'm going to take your autonomy as well, because I don't trust you to have your autonomy and your ability to respond for you. So it's a two-way street there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's seeing the other person as also a sovereign being, and
whether they see themselves that way or not.
Yeah, whether they see themselves that way or not. Yeah.
Again, yeah, because often we create these dynamics between us, and then if one person wants to step out of the dynamic, the other person may be like, but wait a minute. You've been caretaking me all this time, and now you don't want to anymore? Wait a minute. They might not be ready to step into that place. But that doesn't mean we don't still take our own responsibility for where we need to be and model that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh.
Big stuff. Big
and
stuff.
It can also be, it is big stuff. It is big stuff, which is, I think, why to practice, it's so interesting to start with smaller things, right? Like you were saying, and celebrate, really celebrate when you communicate in that way, that we're doing this, right? We're able to take personal responsibility, and your yes is welcome and your no is welcome. And maybe we can also, sometimes there's a discussion that can happen. It's like, oh, I'm not willing to do this exactly the way that you asked, but I'm also interested in meeting your need. And how can I do it? Maybe I could do it this way or this way. How would that feel for you, right? Does that feel good for you? So there's, I don't want to call it a negotiation, but there's like this exchange of how can we make this win-win?
Yeah. I love, it sounds to me like, when we're both in that place of gorgeous autonomy, that one person plus one person, when we come together to create something, it's this gorgeous higher note, right? Because we're both so empowered and coming from our gorgeous magic and the beauty of our personal voices. It's like when the choir comes together and sings, and there's this magic higher note that's created by everyone's voices together. that can happen, right? Where 1 + 1 = 3 because we are in the richness of authenticity. We're in the richness of our truth. And then that together, what it can create is just, right?
Yes. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I want to say too, a lot of the relationships where I've gone back and cleaned that up, y'all, and admitted to a friend or a lover or family member that I had been agreeing to participate in whatever experience, sexual or not, because I was having a hard time saying no. When I admitted it to them, they didn't want me to continue with an activity that I really didn't want to be fully engaged in. There wasn't from them a coercion most of the time.
Yeah.
If we're getting into this coercive thing, then that's power dynamics, that's violations, right? That's not what we're talking about. Most of these relationships, close relationships, my lovers don't really want to be participating sexually with me in things that I don't really want to be doing. My family members, my community don't want me showing up to run errands or do chores or cook dinner when I don't really want to be doing that, right? People in our lives really want from us to be giving from that place of wanting to give.
Yeah.
So most of the time, my experience is it will be received really beautifully and honored. There are times when it won't, and there will be pushback because it's uncomfortable. And that's also something to really play with, But I don't want from others what they don't want to give. So I celebrate when someone tells me they're authentic. Yeah. Well, we are getting close to our hour.
There.
Yeah, it's still cutting in and out, but we're getting close to our hour, Stephanie, and we've filled this so full of yummy, rich stuff. Is there anything that you feel like we haven't said or that we have said that you want to underline before we end our conversation today?
I'd say that when you create, I really like the idea of a playground with certain walls, right? But in which you could play freely because you feel like it's a safe place. When you're practicing consent, you can be so much more playful. And I myself realized that I couldn't fully let go or even sometimes say a full yes or a true no or, be really truthful because I wasn't feeling safe. And that when you start responsibility, you know that you can create this safety with others because you're able to honor needs and your boundaries. And it just creates much more playfulness and fun and connection and safety. So this idea of, consent, I believe, when you're, creates safety.
Yeah, it certainly has such a rich potential for that. Yes. Next week, we are exploring empowered consent and games and play, and with some other intimacy coaches and experts joining. And so I think that's also another place to explore consent in a way to really dive into the juicy unfolding of it when we do allow it to create safety and create trust, right? When we can take the heaviness off of it, it can really serve to uplift us and our relationships with ourselves and others. Yeah. So we are at that
Beautiful.
point, everyone, where we are at the end of our conversation, and we're going to do a little resource roundtable. So now is when Stephanie and myself can let you know how you can work with us. Any of this resonating with you, you want a little bit more help figuring out how to dive deeper into that inner knowing, learn what your body's saying, or communicate with others. This resource roundtable will get you a little bit more information on how you can do that. If you don't want to be offered to at this point, this is all consent, everyone. So you're welcome to pop off now, and thank you for joining us. If you do want to hear more, you're welcome to stick around. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, next week, InPowered Consent and Games and Play. I hope to see you all there. Stephanie, what's going on with you? How can people find you, work with you? I know your website and email is in the description. So everyone, first step, that's where you can find Stephanie.
Yes.
But what do you do? How do people work with you?
All right. Well, one-on-one coaching, or with women, individuals, couples too. So, and that I could do through Zoom. And if you know someone who's looking for this kind of service in French, who knows? I'm putting it out there. I also French, right? And one of the things that I'm interested in doing is giving more workshops in person. That'll be in my area in Quebec, in the greater Montreal area. And also am beginning to create events where people can explore consent, right? It's sort of like an adult playground, but non-sexual, right? Where like a cuddle party, that kind of, where you practice consent, you practice feeling it in your body. Is this something I want to, what can we co-create together? For me, these kind of experiences, I've been many, really allowed me to start using my voice and saying, oh, saying no is well received. It's like the protocol is thank you for yourself, right? It's like it's not a life ending, because at the beginning I would get almost break out into sex, having to say no to something, or so it's a way of doing it that is very warm and safe, right?
Gorgeous.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
And play. So that's the kind of event I want to. And there's if someone is interested, contact me and I'll put you on my wait list.
Fantastic. Yeah. Contact Stephanie, get on the email list, right? And get notified if an event is happening, or if you want to host or throw an event and collaborate with Stephanie, have her lead something, then get in touch. Sound good? All right.
That sounds
well, you
wonderful.
all know me.
Thank
You know I'm all about helping you get heard and understood and fulfilled. I love to get your voices heard. I'd love to help couples talk to each other. I'd love to help individuals learn to talk to their lovers or people they're dating, or the family and community around them. So go check out my website. Go check out my course, Speak Desire. And that's all about getting you this deeper somatic awareness, that inner agency, fun, playful ways to express your voice, and an exploration of what's standing in your way, so that we can really get you activated, get your voice and your expression super activated. All right, everyone. Really lovely to be here with you. Thank you again, Stephanie. And thanks for everyone that watched.
Christina. Thank you for having me. And
you're really cutting up, so I'm going to go ahead and end the conversation here. Thank you. As always, everybody, the invitation is empowerment. Have a gorgeous, pleasure-filled day.